and it's on you.
What's going on? This is Dajae Simone. You're checking out the one, two, three, count them three podcast.
Bet. This is a very smooth intro. I very much love that. We'll get this thing started in three, two, one. Welcome everyone to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now It's Ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Wheeler, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by now, with this being season 5 and you there 300 and something episode, I would just hope you say it with me. I am your Sherpa because, like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently. You can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? You can find this person at PAPW, CPW, KPW. That is Kaiju Pro Wrestling. Find this person at PPW, NAW. You can find them at Top Rope Pro. She is an independent wrestler. She is a singer, a songwriter, a guitarist, a social media guru. She is the one, the only Dajae Simon.
What's going on?
What's up? What's up? Yeah, so we met at Kaiju, and then from there we just kind of started running into each other here, there, everywhere, and finally we were like, "Yo, let's make this click and let's get this thing on the books." Because I was mad hype seeing you work, and I've been following your career, right? I moved, and mind you, full transparency, moved up here about a year ago from Maryland, but I've been following you for a little bit, and like the progress and changes that you have gone through have been magnificent, and you should be applauded for your journey.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It ain't easy. I know you know. It's
Yeah,
just not. It's not.
no, it's not easy, especially because you know for me, like my weight journey began back in like January of 2017. And to preface that, um, my daughter, who love her to death, she was brutally honest, and she was like, "Daddy, you're getting kind of squishy," and I was like, "I've become that guy."
Oh,
And so like I like started working out like little by little, and then randomly I found myself into the wrestling business, and I was like, "No, I want to get like in really good shape and really put 100% into this." And so like started working even harder to get better and to get in better shape. And yeah, it was all because of one day, but man, a day like had a massive impact on me.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I fluctuated quite a bit with my weight. I think after culinary school, and that was back in 2011. Um, and then recently back in two, COVID. So that was rough. But I felt like I carried the weight pretty good because I was like, oh, I finally got some weight. Let me start lifting, and I got some muscle. But I just didn't feel like myself. I was just like I felt like a completely different person. But yeah, it's crazy to see the transformation and to get like compliments now, like, oh, you lost so much weight, and I'm like, well, I've been 113 pounds my whole entire life. um like, people I get checking on me, and I appreciate that. So much love, especially, a lot of my brothers and sisters in wrestling. So I appreciate that. But like, women are going to fluctuate, men are going to fluctuate. We all go through this journey, and it's just on how you want to carry yourself and how
Yeah,
you want to deal with your health. So,
I mean that's so true. And it was funny because I know for me, like I had the wake up call, and I remember calling my best friend back in Nebraska, and I was like, "Hey, bro, let's do a weight loss challenge. Just see what we can do." And he's like, "Okay, bet, I'm in." And he's like at 235. I think I was like at 230, and we were trying to see who could get down the most weight in like before his birthday, which just happened to be in June.
oh, happy
So,
belated too, by the way.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, we worked, and like he got down to like one. I think he got down to like 189 or something like that, and then I got to like 191 or something. It was close. But then like his girlfriend broke up with him, and so like he started to go back up and gaining all the weight. And me, on the other hand, I was like, nope, I'm gonna keep going.
I get that. That's tough, but when you deal with breakups, it could go either way.
It could go either way. I told him, I was like, I remember like encouraging him and be like, yo, bro, like just stay in the gym. Just tiny little puddles. That's all I kept telling him when I sent him this video. And if you guys don't know, you guys can go check it out. There's a whole video called Tiny Little Puddles, which is about a dude who gets his heart broken and then he goes to the gym and he works out a little bit and then he's in tears as well because he's sad, but he makes these tiny little puddles of sweat and tears, and eventually they become just tiny puddles of sweat, and it becomes big puddles of sweat, and eventually he like loses a bunch of weight and he meets somebody at the gym that also is working on their journey, and then they fall in love. And I was like, yo, just keep working tiny.
Oh,
And then slowly and slowly, man, he's like, nah, bro, I'm just gonna go home, I'm just gonna sit down, I'm gonna do this. And yeah, so one sacrifice after the next, and I was like, all
yeah.
right, bro, you got it.
Yeah, no, sacrifices, And I
It's tough.
definitely made some sacrifices in this wrestling business.
It's crazy because like I feel like it's being talked about more like in the wrestling business, especially like at the upper level with like the E and AEW and Impact and stuff like that. But like for the longest time, like people did not talk about like, oh yeah, you're gonna miss this, you're gonna miss that,
Mhm.
and I guess when you look back at it, Hunter, right, on Tough Enough was talking about like what brought you into the business. Do you get fame? Nah, he's like, just imagine you're gonna miss birthdays, you're gonna miss deliveries, you're gonna miss funerals, you're gonna miss anniversaries, and this, that, and the other. And it really didn't get talked about like that. But then, like, I think once he opened up the door, like the rest of it kind of opened up and was like, yeah, like there's a lot of shit you're gonna miss. There's a
Uh,
lot of shit you're gonna miss.
yep. Well, uh, this is what we chose, and like you said, the bigger guys. I always say, thank you for your service. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, it's like they're fighting on the front line, like, and we're just sitting from afar and fighting in the background, waiting for our little call up, whenever that may be. But yeah, I always acknowledge that.
Hey, yo, but okay, so there's a couple things I want to ask, right? One, you're a musicianist. Let's put
I
that
just
up
had a
there.
session. I just got done with a session.
What? Okay. How compare the two, right? Coming through a curtain, right? And finishing out a session. What are the feelings going through?
So I think a couple of my trainers always compare it to, or when I it's hard for me to come out of my shell. I'm a very shy person. I don't like to talk much. I like to just observe. But it's different playing on stage and like pouring your heart out there, which you would think would be similar in the ring. And then it's like, how do I transfer this to this? People think that it's so easy, but it's like, no, I can try to be myself in wrestling to an extent.
Yeah.
I also have to give something to that character. Regardless if I'm using my name, I still have to present myself as the, like, no pun intended, turning it up to 10, you know? Um I feel like for the longest time I sacrificed my music for wrestling and training and putting in the work. And you would think that that would be like some sort of muse in itself, but then you have life. And then you try to distract yourself and you keep pushing, and then the grind. You're going and you can't even stop to think. So it's like, for the longest time I found, for years, the music left me. Like, the tune in my head that's always been there my whole life was gone. And recently, and I mean so recently, like within the past 4 months, getting that back. I've
Mm.
had ideas, there's been projects in the works, but never followed through with them, or something's come up, or like I just tried to pour my heart into wrestling and wish for the best. Um, and then you get the setbacks and auditioning and people telling you what you should be or how you should sound or wanting you to be this thing that they discovered, when in reality, thank goodness for the rock and roll underground, because you can stay authentic and true to yourself and always find yourself back at your home base. Just like in wrestling, you always got to find yourself back in the basics.
Hmm.
So um it's been interesting because I always try to figure out, okay, well, maybe I have to change my writing style. Maybe I have to change the way I sing, especially with the new music that's been coming out. It's kind of hard to separate yourself from a sound,
Yeah.
but you also want people to be remembered or remember a certain sound or texture of music, or oh, that this sounds like there's so many people sampling, but there's so many ways to sample something but make it your own. You
Right.
know what I mean? So I try to do that in wrestling too. And when people are like, "Oh, this reminded me of such and such," I'm like, "Yes, I did my job." And it gets me excited, and I want to. I feel like that's the only thing that I can try to bring from like the stage, you know. But yeah, the wrestling character is completely different from the young lady on stage.
You know what? But one thing I do love about music, as well as like what's like obviously like your wrestling character, is that it's heavily so much influenced by style of what you develop, right? So obviously, like with music, right? And it goes, and you said it right, into the music that's going on like right now. A lot of the songs that are coming out are the same four chords, maybe a different order, maybe a
Hmm.
different arrangement somehow, right? But it's all the same. It's the same sheet of music. It's just
Hmm.
crazy. But there are some guys out there and some girls, right? Billie Eilish, I'll definitely throw her name out there. Beck, John Mayer to an extent. I know he likes to do sometimes his 30 chord progressions that are ridiculous. But you have all these talented artists that come out and drop all this music that just is mind blowing, right? And when I think of other artists like Trent Reznor, but you get these guys who develop this unique style, and then you get attached to them, and then you're like, this might be a little too complicated, like hearing. Because I feel like sometimes with wrestling characters, like we forget that it's wrestling. The best ways to do it is to keep it simple, and we
Yes.
like complex, and we put all these layers into it, and
Hmm.
people like are like, no, we just like this thing about you, and like, oh,
Yeah.
alright, well, we'll just amplify that sound. But, like, you find through your own characters, through your own journey that, like, "Oh, this is what I enjoy about what I'm doing, and I'm going to add more flavor to it and
Hmm.
get your own spices and stuff going to mix together." And I that's what I love about, like, good music is that, like, any bass that any song that gets you to kinda get you in a groove, and then you can a year later, you're like, "Well, if I'm in the gym, would I listen to this?" Like,
Hmm.
"Yeah." Yeah, this is gonna stick around. I'm gonna be around with this for a while,
Yeah.
and then you're able to go. I know, like for me, a lot of people get thrown off, but like my music range is so large,
Same.
and like when you listen to my I have a fight list, right? And I listen to it before every wrestling show, so I'm always like jacked when I get to whatever show I'm at. And sometimes it may start with Johnny Cash, and sometimes it may start with Kendrick Lamar.
Hmm.
Who knows? But
Hmm.
it's always such a unique mix, and uh no, but I think about my wrestling character side because, like, even Red Dog himself, right? Like, he's very chaotic, very, like it's controlled chaos, but it's very, very chaotic. He busts out a lot of, like, random, references from a lot of different movies and a lot of different TV shows and music that he's listening to. So
Hmm.
it's very fun to, like, to add my flavor to it, but, I guess when I'm trying to get at when you're building it, when you're composing it, like, it's so much fun to, like, put this put the pieces together to watch it all make one sheet of music.
Yeah. The Devilish Angel was one of my songs from the rock band Mind Scream that I was in. And when I wrote that song, it was for someone else to sing. This was before Mind Scream ever happened. So I wrote the song called Devilish Angel, and it's kind of about it. It was kind of influenced by Jimi Hendrix, Foxy Lady, and like I was just, oh, I love him so much. And I was influenced by the song, and I created kind of like what I was going through at the time, but like not so much who people perceive me to be, but kind of like when I am out with the band, it's like they expect this kind of a female. And I at the time was 17 years old. So it's like, okay, I have to create a sexy song about a sexy lady, and you're still trying to figure out your feelings and yourself and who you are. It's like, okay, well, I created this. Okay, well, how would this man, if I was a guy, how would I look at this female? How would I describe her? And that was kind of like how I wrote the song for this person that I ended up singing myself, that I kind of took on myself in wrestling. So it's pretty interesting to see it kind of blossom.
Yeah. No, and I think it's cool whenever you like you find an inspiration from somebody and then you pull it and then you make it your own and like you had mentioned earlier, like someone recognizes, oh yeah, that's from this. And you're like, yeah, I got it. I think it's very cool that you're pulling music from like Jimi Hendrix because let's be real, that's the greatest guitar player of all time. I don't care what people say. We could fight it. We could fight it
Oh,
out in the comments.
I love him, but Slash was my influence for actually
S-
playing.
Slash is a great choice. Slash is a great. He's always a great second. And I'll say that. I mean, when you think about people who play guitar, right? Like, it is, and I'll be real. Like, Jimmy Slash, Tom Morello, um, Angus, Eddie Van Halen. You know, what I mean, Joe Perry. Like, you can the
It
list goes
was
on and
just
on and on and on. Yeah, everybody. I mean, Edge is another one too. Yo, I mean, just I love good music that gets me vibing, but that always I and a lot of people I know they're like, man, I get down with the drums and the bass. I'm like, whatever, bro. Like, give me a good riff, and like
and
I'm
just drive. Something that you could literally put on and just, oh shoot, I'm driving.
yeah,
you know? Oh, I zoned out for a second. Like you just really went the Doors are great for that, Just
yep.
driving and just get lost.
Good music is supposed to do that to you. That's what like
Hmm.
good characters, right? Good characters in wrestling do that to you too. Like you forget that like oh, they're a character, right? Like
Hmm.
we watch Orange Cassidy, like on AEW, and I there are times where I tell myself like I'm pretty sure he just does this like on the regular, like he just sits around with his hands in his pockets and just like walks everywhere this way. Like I'm sure he does, and he probably doesn't. I don't know. It's like, but I want to move this slow in real life, and sometimes I find myself forgetting that like, oh yeah, he's very talented as a wrestler, but sometimes I watch
Hmm.
him, I'm like, yeah, I forgot how good of a storyteller he really is in this thing.
Hmm.
What got you into the business though?
As far as we can take this. So for the longest time, my whole life, I wanted to be a wrestler. I was that kid on the carpet in like elementary school with her hand up saying, when I grow up, I want to be a wrestler. Just that kid. And I don't know, I got to a certain point in life, like after all of the auditions and, just the stagnant energy from music and just feeling depleted. I'm like, I need to move on to something that I've always wanted to do. Oh man, I was working at a bowling alley. I had a real real trippy moment, let's just say. And I found myself in a break room just contemplating, like, man, if this is my life, like this is what I'm doing with my life. Something else has to, like, there's something better, like there's something on the other side of that rainbow, and that I can feel, I can smell, I can taste, I visualize it, and I want it. And I don't know, bells were going off, and I was just like, I gotta find a wrestling school. And I was already in the gym. I was already trying to. I was fit. I was juicing, literally juicing, like every single day. I got to juice. um, and I just
And
felt
y'all,
so.
just for consider, when she says juicing, she does not mean taking steroids.
No,
She means
I
she's
mean juicing, like
juice.
making freshly squeezed juice from fruits and vegetables, because we live the vegan lifestyle. But yeah, I felt really good, and I was just like, there's got to be something better to this life, you know. And I found a wrestling school, and the first person I seen on the wall on the poster was X-Pac. And I was like, I'm in the right spot. We got the same birthday. This is it. And I walk into this training facility, and I see some guy rolling around in the ring and punching the air by himself and kicking by himself. I'm like, what the heck is it? Like, what did I just get myself into? Where am I? And I was told that that's my trainer. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when I actually met this person, I was like, oh, okay, I followed your career. This is kind of weird. This is trippy. No pun intended. It was hippy dicky. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm in the right spot. This is, those little pieces came together, following his career and knowing this school, PWA, where they came from, and being in high school and having a couple friends that attended this training school. And I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but eventually it did end up happening. And then they closed 6 months into me training. And and then I feel like every wrestler can relate to the ups and downs of this business. And you just gotta be hopeful and keep pushing. And eventually I found TOS, and I felt like I was home. And I just felt like I needed to just dive in, just and I'm afraid of the water. And I dove in.
So
Splash.
I know when I was at the gym, I was working out, and I saw this kid, and he had a John Cena T-shirt, and I was like, yo, we started talking about professional wrestling, and I remember I ran into him later on, like a few months later, and I was like, yo, what do you do? And he was like, well, I'm a wrestler. I was like pro wrestling, and he was just like, not exactly. I was like, oh, and so I was like, "How do I get to check out whatever?" And he gave me a flyer to a show, so I went and checked out their backyard show,
Hmm.
in the dark arts, as I like to call it now. And so I got involved because I was like, "Yo, I want to get involved with this," so I did. And then one of my friends was like, "Yo, if you want to go pro, this is the person
You
you need to go
came in.
see."
Hmm.
And that at that moment, I decided, I was like, "I am a wanna," and I just dove in. So I couldn't be afraid of water. I just dove in. I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna see you in January. I'm gonna be there, and you can see me every week." And then 2020 happened, and we got the
Hmm.
world shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say that's when I felt like promotions were reaching out, and I was like, okay, we're doing something here. And then I remember the first little talks about of some kind of COVID whatever scare. What was it? It was this NCW show, and people were like, "Oh, do you want to shake my hand?" Like joking about. It. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if you're being funny. Like, and then like you said, the world shut down,
Mm.
and yeah, we all felt the effect of that. Um, whew, that was tough.
You know what's crazy is I will never forget being in my trainer's house, and we were all training, and then Kobe died, right? And I bring it up because if you check out the USA Today art like paper, where like the actual paper itself, and it talks about Kobe's death, right next to it was an article that the COVID virus had spread. And I was like, I remember reading a Kobe one. I remember seeing it, but I remember reading a Kobe thing, just being so attached to it and like whatever. I don't. And I was like, I'm not training today. I was like, yo, I'm kind of just we're all shocked about Kobe,
Yeah.
but yeah. And then all of a sudden, like a couple weeks later, the world shut down
Yeah.
for COVID.
It's
And I remember,
you bring up Kobe because I seen a video of him last night and I seen a video of him today. He's making his presence known.
hmm
He really is. So
I was like, dang, this is crazy. I just remember like pausing out, and I'm like, bro, this is the wildest time I've ever been a part of. And yeah, I remember telling myself too. I was like, maybe that's just maybe this is the world's way of telling me, hey, you know what, Cliff? Like, I'm glad that you're trying this professional wrestling thing, but it's just not meant to be. And I was like, all right, it's not.
I think
And
everybody
then May
needs to
came, and I
take
was like,
a step
I'm gonna
back.
go try.
I think once you get your foot in the ring and you get a taste of it, it's like you gotta have more.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even I had the shoulder injury, and I was just like, as much as this hurts, and I don't want to fall into a depression, I gotta be near a ring, even just to touch it. It is scary still coming back from
I
just how the world is now. You know,
hmm
I'm surprised that we have like the regular fans that show up, bless their hearts, that support at like they're at like every single show.
yeah, God bless
They
them.
come out and they show out.
I remember you talking about the shoulder injury. I had tore my abdomen, and this was like my first year. So when I tore my abdomen, I was like, maybe and you talk about it like the drug, right, of professional wrestling. I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to do this, right? But the next day, even though I had torn my abdomen and I knew I was injured and I knew I wasn't going to be able to go, I still showed up to practice the next day and just sat and down with the trainer and just started taking notes about like drills and sequences they were hitting, and it gave me an opportunity to build my character up the way I wanted to, and the move sequences I wanted to hit and things I wanted to learn when I came back. And I was like, oh wow, yeah, I'm
It's like
definitely
everything falls in place, right?
yeah. I was
It's
like,
like, oh, I'm doing this.
oh yeah, 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 here we are. Like I'm developing this whole thing that I didn't realize. So yeah, so all the stuff that I was laying down was like my groundwork for what my future character would end up being. And it's crazy when you are forced to sit down and slow down and think about everything, that how much um like how much you're learning. And you're supposed to, like, obviously, like, you could be in a ring and you could be bumping all day, but the problem is like you're not quite sure like how to work. You're just kind of like there just to figure. You're just kind of there like, oh, I'm learning this really cool move and I want to
Hmm.
hit it in every single match. And then you're like,
Hmm.
well, wait a minute, let me pull this back. I only want to hit this in certain matches when it matters the most, and this would be
Hmm.
my big move. And it's, I don't know. I think wrestling, like, getting injured was like a blessing in disguise for me, because like even my book, which is actually right down here, was like I just remember taking all these notes and just filling out with everything and talking about it and talking ad nauseum. Like it's weird how music and wrestling, like, and media, right? Like if
Hmm.
you invest yourself, if you dive into it, you talk about it and you feel like you're exhausting everybody around you because of how much you're talking about it. But then you realize that, like, no, that's just like how passionate you are about the
Hmm.
subject. I find myself like wrapped in that world all the time.
Yeah. It's oof, music definitely. I think in wrestling, I feel like that's we grew up on so much of like our generation. Just oof, like just the pay-per-views, vignettes. It's oof, going back and listening to certain songs can literally bring you back to that moment in time of that. Oh my gosh, I was this age when this pay-per-view, and buying anthology music, and
God, the
being
end.
in, what is it, in line for your CD, like
I was
with
just
a
thinking about it
release
again.
date.
I gotta have all the
I
anthology
gotta have
albums.
that all.
They're all here. Like I gotta get them
Hmm.
all.
Well, we can get creepy or we can get weird. But Matt Hardy was kind of kind of an inspiration for one of the first songs I ever wrote with guitar. And uh it had to do with a bad breakup, but but Matt Hardy kind of influenced this that song. No regrets. But
Mm.
yeah, I feel like I feel like music definitely goes hand in hand with wrestling. It brings it to, so many different levels, and they've
Yes.
taken it sky high.
Well, I mean, think about it, right? Like the right promo package, the right vignette, right? The right music, like just
Build
becomes
up.
iconic. Like
Yeah.
to this day, my friends still talk about uh My Way or the Highway with Limp Bizkit and Stone Cold and
Hmm.
The Rock for WrestleMania. They
Yeah.
still talk about this day. They ain't watched wrestling since like 90, like 2000, 2001, 2002, something like that. They stopped watching wrestling after like The Rock left the first time, and they still talk about it to this day. Like it was the greatest and it. To be fair, I would think so. It was one of the greatest vignettes ever put together. But I'm like, bruh, like that was years ago.
That feeling that you get when, like, a certain wrestler comes out, like you said, coming out of the curtain, from, being on stage to coming out of the curtain. Everyone has that moment of, oh, what music am I going to come out to? It goes hand in hand, finding that character, feeling the emotion, and really like absorbing everything, and like the fans absorbing it too. I think that's that connection. That's what connects us all.
Well, see, like I remember when I first came out, like my first song that I started coming out to was it was a version of Danger Zone done by a different band. It was a cover band that did it, and I thought it was so cool. And but it was like for that time for that wrestling character of Red Dog, which was like a military. He was a merc, or he's a mercenary, and he was a lot of fun, but he was just very stoic, and I thought that it made sense for him, like in that character. But like for Cliff, I just felt like I was like, I want something that's more me. And I remember going to my buddy and I was like, hey man, can you write me a song that is based more on hip hop? It's got to be these two artists kind of clashing styles, and then just like make something that fits. And what I thought of was DMX's X Gonna Give It To You mixed with E40's Catch a Fade, and I was like, this is the song, because I was like, these are my two. Like when I think about like wanting to fuck somebody up, like this is the song I wanted to come out to. So when my debut song got made, or my song got made, and I debuted it, I instantly got chills down my spine and had all like my hairs were standing up. I was like, oh, this is all about me,
Hmm.
and we're about to just ruin somebody's life. And I was like, I'm here for it. Um, but I want people to get that. I want people to get that same feeling, because like I just think that a good bass line, a good drum beat, and then you get the right chords mixed in there, like it can turn everything around. And I love, like I don't know, I love the song. So when my buddy sent it to me, I was like, bro, I'm ready to go. Let's get it.
Yeah, you gotta have something that's gonna hype you. You can just absorb yourself and just feel it and be in the moment from beginning to end.
Yep, yep. 100%. Hey yo, let me ask you this question. What's the hardest lesson you've had to learn being in the business?
The hardest lesson being in this business. Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like, oh, I'm always learning, and there's always a lesson. I know this kind of contradicts what I said earlier as far as like talking, not owning the talk, but I feel like I need to shut up more. Like I need to just be silent instead of, I don't know, just learning and just absorbing, you know. I don't
I
know if
like
that
that.
really answered your question,
No,
but
no, it 100% does, and it's funny because, like, I don't know, next time I see you, you have to remind me, but in my bag, I've talked about this a couple times on the show, so if you guys know, you guys know, but I have a sponge in my bag. It's just a dry sponge, but it just constantly reminds me that, hey, I'm just there to soak up knowledge, and it's
yeah, a lot of people nowadays, like even just in wrestling, I feel like just in general, like a lot of people, especially the younger generation, I grew up in a household where the elders, like I want to listen, I want to absorb everything that they're saying. I feel like now same with, all of the trainers. I just want to sit underneath the learning tree and just you know.
100%.
So it's it's just about absorbing their knowledge and listening and just taking in their advice. And like I said, I just feel like I just do a lot of this and keep it moving. Like, oh yeah, 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 I'll see you when I see you, friend. Where
I
it's like I need to just sit and like really sit back and absorb more than I do. you know,
I
I
feel
try my best.
I
But
feel you. There are times too where I found myself like, I don't know, when I'm in a locker room, I don't like to say a whole lot. And it's not that I'm trying to be disrespectful. It's legitimately I'm just listening to everybody's conversations because
hmm
um it was funny because one of the guests I had on the podcast, they were talking about the little brother who was also in the wrestling business. Walked up to another group of guys and was like, "Hey, can I just sit here and listen to you call your match? That's it." And they were like, "Yeah." And so he just sat there and just listened and kind of just took mental notes. And then when he got done, he wrote his notes out. But I thought it was very cool, and I never thought about that idea. So now I just kind of
hmm
like, and I'm listening to, I'm calling my match, but then like I'll be like, I won't listen to, and it's my to a detriment to me. I won't listen because I'm listening to another match being called and like how they're calling it. And I'm like,
hmm
oh, I like how they're saying that. Right,
Yeah.
right. What was that spot? Run that by me again. Like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just kind of like here and here
Yeah,
at the same time.
yeah, everywhere in the locker room. Like you're just absorbing everything.
Yeah,
Sit back and just absorb it. I like to just take in all the energy and just, I try to make myself comfortable. And I feel like that's why I feel like I have to talk because it's like, oh, if I'm not talking, then I don't know.
no, I
If I'm
feel
not
you.
talking, people are gonna think something's wrong.
Like, is everything okay? Like, are you good?
Yeah,
Like,
and people do check on me, and I'm like, I just want to be here by myself, please.
yeah,
I just want to let's take this all in. I'm listening. I'm here.
100%, 100%. So, listen, we're gonna move this to my favorite segment of the Three Count Podcast, which is the Three Count Podcast 10 count questions. And here's how it works, Ms. Moan. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you, rapid fast. Whatever your answer is, that's your answer.
Ooh, okay.
So, I'm gonna put on the imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing. And in the words of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Lately, SmackDown.
Okay. Favorite actress?
Drew Barrymore.
Let's go. I like that pick. Marvel or DC?
Really? uh, ooh, Marvel.
Favorite TV show?
mm, of all time,
Yeah,
Friends.
that's a good one. Waffles or pancakes?
Let's go waffle. That's a delicacy, and I only have them once in a while because I'll mess up some waffles.
Hey,
I mess up some pancakes too, but I make them all the time.
right. I got you. I feel like, and you listen,
It's a
like,
treat when I have some waffles.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you do like the late night waffles with some ice cream on top of it. Like, yeah,
I never tried
100%.
ice cream on. Okay, you put me on to something new, and I'm a chef too. I ain't never put no ice cream on waffles.
What?
I might have to do this weekend. Save the
Hey,
cheat
yo,
meal.
I'm gonna have to give you something after you all get to know. You all get to know. I'm gonna put you. I'm gonna get you something. All right. Let's see. Favorite movie.
Ooh. Oh no! Goodness gracious! Oh, I can't. I don't want to be typical. Mm. Fast Times at Miss Richmond High.
It's a good one. It's a great
Fast
pick.
Times. There we
It
go.
is a great pick. Like,
Yeah.
I can dig that. I can dig that. All right. So I had a question here originally, but I wanted to change it. So we're gonna go with let's go with Eddie Van Halen or Tom Morello.
Eddie.
I was like, they're both great. Like it's not a,
Ah.
it's no dig, Tom. Like
No.
no. uh favorite podcast.
Mm. Let's see. Well, they're neck and neck right now, Basement Yard and Richard Holiday. You know what I mean? Like it's neck and neck, you know?
Yep. I totally understand. Uh Nominate one person you want to see on this podcast.
Hmm?
Nominate one person you want to see on this podcast.
On the podcast. Ooh. Ooh, let's go Bobby Ocean.
I like that pick a lot. Last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this podcast. Favorite curse word.
I say that word a lot. It's like part of me.
And it has to be. By the way, I don't know if we didn't discuss this before. Yeah, we were able to curse on this podcast the whole time.
Fuck.
Yeah, there we go. I just wanted one. Be like, all right, now we're demonetized.
It's fine.
Thanks.
You.
No more, no more money made to be on YouTube. Sorry, guys. Uh, no, but those
God
are all
dang
my
it.
questions I do have to ask you. And so the last thing I need from you is to let our listeners and our viewers know where they go find you.
Oh, you can find me on all socials at Dajae Simone. That's it.
That's it. Works for
Yeah.
me. It's easy. I mean, look at like right there. That's it. The
That's
underscore
it.
Red Dog 85. All social media platforms. Keep it simple. Why not?
Yeah.
So she told you where you could find all of our social media platforms. She told you everywhere that you could look. So just go look. Just type it in Google. Do
There's
something.
gonna
You
be
know that.
some creepy stuff happening. I don't know when, but it's just gonna start popping up. But
So
it's
pay attention.
happening. Things are in the works.
Well, she told you there's some future plans. She told you where you could find her. And like every great part of a wrestling match, we got to take this home. Because this is the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering. And I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And, like a good shirt, but it's never about me. It's about who's in the ring. So who's in the ring? You see her right there. Dajae Simone. And you know what that means. Tune into the next episode and be there. Or you're really just subscribe to all of our social media platforms. You even subscribe to our YouTube channel. You're checking us out on Spotify. You're listening to us on Amazon Music. You're even checking us out on that dumb app with the stupid jingle that goes iHeartRadio or whatever it is. You're buying all of our merch on ProWrestlingTees.com, or you're even checking out our merch on ForYourWear.com. You're doing all that stuff. You're telling your mom about us, your dad about us, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your best friends, and your enemies, because we love haters too. You know that stuff, or really you're just kind of waiting for that episode to end. You're waiting for that outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii.